The meeting room on Nexus Prime was bigger than any building Jack Morrison had ever seen on Earth. The ceiling stretched so high that clouds formed near the top. Hundreds of alien delegates sat in curved rows that went up and up like a giant stadium. Each species had their own section with special air and lighting that matched their home. Worlds. Jack sat at the human table near the bottom of the room. He was tired. 3 months of talks had worn him down. His suit was wrinkled and his coffee had gone cold hours ago. Next to him sat Lisa Carter, his best negotiator. She was young but smart, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. On his other side was Colonel Pete Davis, their military advisor. The colonel's face looked like carved stone as he listened to the aliens speak. The Veltar delegate was talking again. His name was Zarian, and he looked like a tall, thin person made of silver metal. His voice came out in musical tones that the translator made sound bored and superior. "The humans must understand their place in the galactic order," he said. "They are new here. They must learn from those who have traveled the stars for thousands of years." Jack gripped his pen tighter. This was the same speech he had heard 50 times. The Veltar thought they were better than everyone else because they had the oldest civilization. They wanted humans to give up their 3 best colony worlds. They said humans were too young to manage such important planets. Behind Zarian, the Krex military leader clicked his claws on the table. The Krex looked like giant crabs with too many legs and eyes like black marbles. General Thek spoke in harsh burst that the translator made sound angry. "Humans fight too much. They need strong guidance. Krex will teach them proper discipline." The Krex wanted to put military bases on every human world. They said it was for protection, but Jack knew better. The Krex loved to control other species. They had done it to 6 different civilizations already. The Zephyrian trademaster was next. The Zephyrians looked like floating jellyfish made of light. Master Kel spoke in whispers that somehow filled the whole room. "Human goods are crude but useful. We will buy them at fair prices. 20% of standard galactic rates should be enough." 20%. Jack almost laughed. The Zephyrians wanted to buy human products for almost nothing, then sell them across the galaxy for huge profits. They had done this to every species that was not strong enough to say no. Lisa leaned over and whispered in Jack's ear. "They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They think we're desperate." Jack nodded. For 3 years, Earth had been trying to join the galactic community. They wanted fair trade deals and respect for human territory. Instead, they got demands that would make humanity into servants. The council chairman banged his staff on the floor. Chairman Voltek was from a species that looked like purple trees with faces. His voice was deep and slow like distant thunder. "The human delegation will now respond to these generous offers." "Generous." Jack stood up slowly. The room went quiet. Hundreds of alien eyes turned to look at him. He could feel their judgment, their certainty that humans would accept whatever scraps they offered. "We appreciate the time everyone has spent." "Here?" Jack said. His voice carried clearly through the big room. "But I have to ask a question. Do any of you see us as equals?" The room filled with strange sounds. Veltar musical laughter, Krex clicking, Zephyrian humming. They thought his question was funny. Zarian stood up, his silver body gleaming under the lights. "Equals, young human, your species has been in space for barely 50 years. We have built empires that span thousands of star systems. We have knowledge that goes back millions of years. You are children playing with toys you do not understand. Children who need guidance," General Thek added, his crab-like claws snapping. "Children who must learn their place. Children who should be grateful," Master Kel whispered, his jellyfish body pulsing with soft light. "Grateful for the chance to serve their betters." The room went completely silent. Even the air recycling system seemed to stop. Jack felt something cold and hard settle in his chest. He had hoped, right up until this moment, that there might be a way to make this work. But now he knew the truth. These aliens did not want partners. They wanted servants. Jack looked at Lisa. Her face was pale, but her eyes were angry. He looked at Colonel Davis. The old soldier's jaw was tight, and his hands were clenched into fists. "Serve our betters," Jack repeated softly. Then his voice got stronger. Is that what you think this is about? He reached for his briefcase and started putting his papers inside. We came here in good faith. We offered trade that would help everyone. We offered friendship. We offered partnership. The alien delegates started making nervous sounds. This was not how these meetings usually went. Younger species always begged for more time to think about the generous offers. What you are offering is not partnership, Jack continued, still packing his papers. You want us to give up our best worlds. You want to put your soldiers on our planets. You want to buy our goods for nothing and sell them for fortunes. You want us to bow down and say thank you for the privilege. Chairman Voltuk banged his staff again. Ambassador Morrison, you are being unreasonable. These are standard terms for new species joining the galactic community. Jack closed his briefcase with a loud snap. The sound echoed through the huge room, like a gunshot. Then maybe we do not want to join your community, the room erupted. Aliens were clicking and humming and making all kinds of angry noises. Some stood up and waved their arms or tentacles or whatever they had. Others banged on their tables. You cannot be serious, Zarian said, his musical voice hitting notes that hurt human ears. You are one small species on a few primitive worlds. You need us far more than we need you. Jack smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Maybe, but here is what I know for sure. We do not need you enough to become your slaves. He turned to his team. Lisa, Pete, pack up, we are going home. The two other humans stood up and started gathering their things. The alien noise got louder and more panicked. You will regret this, General Feck clicked angrily. You will come back begging within a year. Perhaps, Jack said. He walked toward the door, his team behind him. At the doorway, he turned back to look at the hundreds of alien faces staring at him in shock. Or perhaps you will regret letting us go. The three humans walked out of the meeting room. Behind them, the aliens continued to make angry noises. But Jack could hear something else in their voices, now. Fear. The door closed behind them with a final, echoing boom. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the peace talks. On Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council met every week to discuss what they called the human problem. But there was no problem to discuss. The humans had simply vanished. No. Messages came from human space, no trade requests. No diplomatic calls begging to restart the talks. The silence was so complete that some aliens wondered if humanity had destroyed itself in some terrible war. Dr. Elena Rodriguez did not care what the aliens wondered. She stood in her laboratory on Mars Station 3, looking at the test results. On her screen. For 6 months, she had worked 18 hours a day. Her team of 200 scientists worked just as hard. They had one job: make humanity independent. How are we doing with the power cores? She asked her assistant, Dr. Kim Walsh. Kim looked tired but excited. Better than we hoped. The new fusion design is 30% more efficient than anything the aliens have. We can power a city with something the size of a car. Elena smiled. Before the talks failed, humans had used alien power technology. It was expensive and needed special parts that only alien companies made. Now they had something better, and they had built it themselves. Across the room, Dr. Ben Clark was working on medical equipment. The healing pods are ready for testing, he called out. They work faster than Veltar medical tech, and we do not need their expensive biogels anymore. Elena walked over to look at Ben's work. The healing pod looked like a metal coffin filled with blue light. How much faster? A broken bone heals in 2 hours instead of 2 days. Deep cuts close in minutes. We tested it on volunteers yesterday. This was the best news Elena had heard all week. Alien medical technology had always been their biggest advantage over humans. Now that advantage was gone. Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Guardian. His job was simple but important: patrol the border of human space and keep aliens out. For 6 months, alien ships had tried to enter human territory. Every time, Ryan sent them away. Today was different. A massive Zephyrian trade ship hung in space just outside the border. Ryan had been watching it for 3 hours. The ship's captain, Master Yin, kept sending messages. Human Captain, we wish to discuss trade opportunities. Our previous offers were perhaps too harsh. We are willing to negotiate better terms, Ryan almost laughed. 6 months ago, the Zephyrians had offered to buy human goods for 20% of their value. Now, they wanted to negotiate better terms because their trade routes were failing without human customers. Master Yin, Ryan said into his communicator, human space is closed to all alien vessels. This policy will not change. But, Captain, surely we can reach an understanding. The Zephyrian Trade Guild values human friendship. Ryan looked at his bridge crew. Lieutenant Sue Grant shook her head with disgust. The aliens had not valued human friendship when they thought humans were weak. Master Yin, you have 30 minutes to leave this area. If you do not leave, we will escort you out. The Zephyrian ship sat silent for 28 minutes. Then it slowly turned around and flew away. On Nexus Prime, the weekly council meeting was more tense than usual. Trade reports showed that the galactic economy was having serious problems. The Zephyrian trade routes had lost billions of credits. Without human business, the Krek's military budget was strained because they had to patrol areas that humans used to help protect. Even the proud Veltar were feeling the loss of human customers for their luxury goods. Chairman Voltak looked older than he had 6 months ago. His purple bark was turning gray at the edges. Perhaps it is time to send another diplomatic message to the humans, he suggested. General Thek clicked his claws angrily. They will come back when they get hungry enough? Humans cannot survive without galactic trade, but Master Kel was not so sure. His jellyfish body pulsed with worried colors. Our intelligence reports are disturbing. Human ships are moving in patterns we do not understand. They are building something in the dead systems near their borders. Zirian's silver body gleamed as he leaned forward. What kind of building? We do not know. Our spy drones cannot get close enough. Human detection systems have improved greatly. This made the council very uncomfortable. How had human technology advanced so quickly? 6 months ago, their ships were barely faster than civilian transports. Now they could detect and stop the galaxy's best spy equipment. Back on Mars Station 3, Elena was getting ready for the biggest test yet. Her team had been working on something that every expert said was impossible, bringing dead planets back to life. The target was Kepler 442c, a world that had been strip-mined by the Veltar 300 years ago. Nothing lived there now. The air was poison, the water was gone, and the ground was torn up like a giant had used it for target practice. But Elena's team had new technology. Atmospheric processors that could clean the air in months instead of decades. Soil rebuilders that could make dirt fertile again. Genetic banks that held the patterns for thousands of Earth plants and animals. Are we really going to do this? Dr. Walsh asked, looking at the mission plans. We are really going to do this, Elena replied. In 1 year, Kepler 442c will be green again. The aliens said terraforming dead worlds was impossible. We are going to prove them wrong. Across human space, similar projects were starting. Dead asteroids became mining stations. Empty systems became research outposts. Humans were not just surviving without alien help, they were growing stronger. The aliens had expected humans to come back within weeks, begging for scraps. Instead, human space had become a black box. Ships went in, but no information came out. The galaxy's most advanced intelligence services could not figure out what humanity was doing on Nexus Prime. The council meetings were getting desperate. The Zephyrian Trade Guild reported that 17 major trade routes were no longer profitable without human participation. The Krek's military was spread too thin trying to patrol space that humans used to help secure. The Veltar were losing prestige as other species began to question their leadership. Maybe we should offer them better terms, suggested Counselor Breep, a small alien who looked like a walking flower. Treat them as equals instead of junior partners. The room went silent. This was the first time anyone had suggested treating humans as equals. General Thak's claws clicked with rage. We do not negotiate with children who throw tantrums. But Chairman Voltak looked thoughtful. Perhaps Counselor Breep has a point. The humans have shown remarkable ... independence. Zirian's musical voice filled with scorn. They are bluffing. No species can survive alone in the galaxy. They will be back. None of them knew that in human space, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was putting the final touches on technology that would change everything. In 3 months, the galaxy would learn that humans had not just survived their isolation, they had used it to become something entirely new. The alert came at 3 in the morning, Galactic Standard Time. On every major world, communication systems screamed with emergency signals. Long-range sensors had detected something impossible. Kepler-442c was alive. Commander Zex of the Veltar. Deep space monitoring stations stared at his screens in disbelief. 3 days ago, Kepler-442c had been a dead rock, poisoned and stripped bare by centuries of mining. Now his sensors showed forests, lakes, and an atmosphere thick with oxygen. "Run the scan again," he ordered his technician. "Sir, I have run it 12 times. The readings are correct. Kepler-442c shows massive plant life across 70% of its surface. The atmosphere has been completely rebuilt. There are cities under construction near the equator." Zex felt his silver skin grow cold. Bringing a dead world back to life was supposed to take centuries, even with the best galactic technology. How? Had the humans done it in just 2 years? On Nexus Prime, emergency council meetings were being called. Chairman Voltak had not slept in 36 hours. His purple bark was pale with stress as he read report after report. 17 more dead worlds showing signs of terraforming, his aide reported. All of them in human space. All of them impossible. According to our scientists. General Feck clicked his claws nervously. For the first time since the humans left, he looked worried instead of angry. "How many colonists are they moving to these worlds?" "Unknown, sir. Our spy drones still cannot penetrate human detection networks. But energy readings suggest millions of people on each terraformed planet." Master Kell floated in the corner, his jellyfish body pulsing with dark, frightened colors. "This changes everything. If humans can terraform dead worlds this quickly, they do not need galactic trade routes. They do not need anyone." Jack Morrison stood in his new office on Terra Nova, humanity's newest colony world. Through his window, he could see forests that had not existed a year ago. Children played in parks where toxic waste had once filled the ground. The transformation was so complete that even Jack sometimes forgot this world had been dead when they found it. Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat across from his desk, looking tired but proud. Her hair was grayer than it had been 2 years ago, but her eyes were bright with success. "How many worlds are ready for colonization?" Jack asked. 15 are fully terraformed and receiving settlers. 23 more will be ready within 6 months. We have identified 47 additional dead worlds that can be restored. Jack shook his head in amazement. The aliens said it was impossible. "The aliens never tried hard enough," Elena replied. "They were too busy fighting each other and making deals. We had a different motivation. We had to succeed or stay isolated forever." Elena pulled up a holographic display showing human space. Green dots marked terraformed worlds, blue dots showed colonies under construction, and red dots indicated dead worlds being prepared for restoration. "Our population has room to grow for the next 1,000 years, she said. "We do not need their crowded, expensive worlds anymore. We are making our own." But Elena had saved the best news for last. "There is something else, Jack, something the aliens will not expect." She changed the display to show technical specifications. "Our terraforming process has a side effect. The plants and soil bacteria we use do not just clean the environment. They create rare minerals as waste products." Jack leaned forward. "What kind of rare minerals?" "The kind that power faster than light engines. The kind that make the strongest ship armor. The kind that cost a fortune on galactic markets." Elena smiled. "Every terraformed world becomes a source of the galaxy's most valuable resources." On the bridge of his patrol ship, Captain Ryan Brooks received a priority message from Earth Command. After 2 years of silence, Humanity was finally going to speak to the galaxy again. The message was simple: all alien vessels are to maintain a distance of at least 10 light minutes from Kepler 442c. Any ship that approaches closer will be turned away. This world is now home to 15 million human colonists and is under the protection of the United Earth Federation. Ryan broadcast the message on all galactic communication frequencies. Then he sat back to wait for the response. He did not have to wait long. Within hours, dozens of alien ships appeared at the edge of human space. News vessels, diplomatic ships, trade scouts, and military patrols all came to see if the reports were true. Ryan's fleet was ready for them. 12 human ships formed a protective barrier around Kepler 442c. The ships looked different from the ones aliens remembered. They were sleeker, faster, and covered with weapons that no one recognized. Master Yin of the Zephyrian Trade Guild was among the first to arrive. His massive trade ship had been patrolling human borders for months, hoping for a chance to reopen negotiations. Human ships, this is Master Yin. We request permission to approach and verify the status of Kepler 442c. Ryan's reply was polite but firm. Master Yin, you are welcome to observe from your current position. Any attempt to move closer will result in escort back to galactic space. But surely old trading partners deserve better treatment than this, Ryan almost laughed. Master Yin, when were we ever trading partners? As I remember, you offered to buy our goods for 20% of their value? There was a long silence on the communication channel. More alien ships arrived every hour. Soon there was a small fleet of observers watching human space. They used their most powerful sensors to scan Kepler 442c from a distance. What they saw terrified them. The dead world was not just alive, it was thriving. Massive cities spread across continents that had been toxic wasteland 2 years ago. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet like a ring of stars. Ship construction facilities worked around the clock, building vessels that were clearly more advanced than anything in the galactic fleet. Dr. Rodriguez appeared on galactic communication networks for the first time since the peace talks collapsed. She stood in a laboratory filled with plants and animals from Earth, with Kepler 442c's new forest visible through large windows behind her. For those who are watching, she said calmly, I want to address some questions about our terraforming success. Yes, we brought Kepler 442c back to life in just 2 years. Yes, we plan to do the same thing to dozens of other dead worlds. And no, this is not impossible. It just requires dedication, hard work, and the freedom to innovate without interference. She gestured to the forest outside her window. When the peace talks failed, many people said humanity could not survive without galactic support. They said we were too young, too primitive, too dependent on alien technology. We decided to prove them wrong. The broadcast was being watched on every major world in the galaxy. Elena knew this might be humanity's only chance to speak directly to galactic civilization. We learned something important during our isolation, she continued. We do not need permission to grow and thrive. We do not need anyone's approval to build a better future for our children. We just need to be left alone to do the work. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Kepler 442c is the first of many worlds we will restore. Our children will grow up on planets that were considered lost forever. They will breathe clean air, drink pure water, and play in forests that exist because we refuse to give up. The broadcast ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. On Nexus Prime, Chairman Voltuk called another emergency session. The council chamber, once filled with confident delegates, now buzzed with nervous energy. They have done in 2 years what our best experts said would take centuries, Voltuk said. How is this possible? Zirian's silver body was dim with worry. Perhaps we underestimated their capabilities. General Thack's claws clicked rapidly with anxiety. If they can terraform dead worlds this easily, they will soon outnumber all of us combined. Master Kell pulsed with dark colors of fear. The economic implications are staggering. If they control dozens of resource-rich worlds, they will not need galactic trade. We will need theirs. For the first time since humanity left the peace talks, the aliens began to realize they might have made a terrible mistake. The species they had dismissed as primitive children had quietly become the most powerful force in the galaxy. The warning came from the deep space monitoring stations at the edge of the galaxy. Ancient signals, dormant for 1,000 years, had suddenly come alive. The devourer swarms were waking up early. Dr. Keth Morvan was the galaxy's leading expert on the devourers. He had spent his entire career studying the mechanical horrors that emerge from the galactic core every 1,000 years to consume entire star systems. His calculations showed they were not supposed to wake up for another 3 centuries. The energy readings are off the charts, he told the emergency council session on Nexus Prime. Something has triggered them centuries ahead of schedule. We estimate 4 months before the first swarms reach inhabited systems. Chairman Voltak felt his bark turning gray with fear. The last time the devourers had awakened, they had consumed 47 star systems before the galaxy could organize a defense. That was with centuries of preparation and every species working together. How many ships can we mobilize? He asked General Thek. The Krex general's claws clicked nervously as he consulted his reports. The Krex 6 fleet has 300 battle cruisers ready for deployment, but our forces are spread thin patrolling the territories we took over. When the humans left, Master Kell pulsed with worried colors. The Zephyrian merchant fleet can be converted to military use, but we lost many experienced captains when our trade routes collapsed. We can provide ships, but not skilled crews. Zirian's silver body was dim with concern. The Veltar Deep Space Defense Network needs 6 months to fully activate. We do not have that time. For 3 hours, the Council argued about strategy. The Veltar wanted to use their ancient defensive technology but refused to share it with other species. The Krex insisted they should lead the military response, even though their tactics had failed against the Devourers before. The Zephyrians worried more about protecting their remaining trade routes than stopping the threat that could destroy everything. It was the same petty politics that had driven humanity away from the peace talks. Dr. Morvan tried to interrupt several times, but the delegates were too busy arguing to listen. Finally, he stood up and shouted over the noise. You are missing the point. The Devourers are not like other enemies. They do not negotiate, they do not retreat. They consume everything in their path and turn it into more machines. If we do not work together perfectly, we will all die. The room fell silent for a moment. Then the arguing started again. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, humanity's most advanced warship. Her fleet of 60 ships patrolled the borders of human space, watching the chaos unfold in galactic territory. Her communication officer, Lieutenant Dave Stone, looked up from his console. Admiral, we are receiving desperate messages from 17 different species. They are all asking for military assistance against the Devourers. Sarah read through the messages on her personal screen. The tone had changed completely from 2 years ago. Instead of demands and condescending offers, these were genuine pleas for help. Master Yin of the Zephyrians is offering us exclusive trade rights to their entire network, Lieutenant Stone continued. General Thak promises the Krex will recognize human territorial claims to any system we want. Even the Veltar are offering to share their defensive technology. Sarah shook her head. Now that they were in danger, the aliens suddenly wanted to be friends. Forward all messages to Director Morrison on Terra Nova. This decision is above my authority level. On Terra Nova, Jack Morrison convened an emergency session of the Human Colonial Senate. Representatives from 37 human worlds gathered in the gleaming council chamber of New Geneva, humanity's new capital city. The debate was intense but civil. Unlike the alien councils, humans had learned to disagree without insulting each other. Congressman Dan Foster stood at the speaker's podium, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We cannot stand by and watch entire civilizations be destroyed. Yes, the aliens treated us badly, but genocide is genocide, no matter who the victims are. Senator Kate Williams rose to respond. Congressman Foster, I respect your compassion. But we must think about our own people first. These same aliens called us children and servants. They wanted to make us their slaves. Now they expect us to die protecting them? The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued for intervention based on moral principles. Others insisted that humanity's first duty was to its own survival. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was called to testify about humanity's military capabilities. She stood before the Senate, her scientific reports projected on screens around the chamber. Our ships are faster and more advanced than anything in the Galactic Fleet, she reported. Our weapons are more efficient, our shields are stronger, and our crews are better trained. But the Devourers are not ordinary enemies. They adapt to whatever tactics are used against them. Senator Bill Murphy asked the question everyone was thinking. Dr. Rodriguez, can humanity defeat the Devourers alone if they attack our space? Elena considered carefully before answering. Our defensive systems are far superior to anything the galaxy has ever seen. We could probably protect our own worlds. But a full victory against the Devourers would require massive resources and many ships. We would survive, but at great cost. The vote was scheduled for the next day, but everyone knew it would be close. Meanwhile, the first Devourer scouts had reached the outer rim of galactic space. The mechanical ships were unlike anything built by living beings. They looked like giant metal insects with weapons growing from their bodies like spines. Wherever they went, they consumed everything, ships, stations, even entire asteroids, and converted the material into more Devourers. The first battle took place at the Zephyrian Trade Station Harmony Point. Master Yin commanded the defense personally, leading 12 converted merchant vessels against 3 Devourer scouts. The battle lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, Harmony Point was gone, along with its 1,000,000 inhabitants. The 12 Zephyrian ships had been consumed, and the 3 Devourer scouts had become 9. Similar disasters occurred across the Rim territories. The Kreks lost an entire patrol fleet. The Veltar watched in horror as their ancient fortress world of Sovara was stripped down to its core in less than a day. On Nexus Prime, the emergency sessions never ended. Delegates slept in their chairs and ate emergency rations while they tried to coordinate a defense that kept falling apart. We need a unified command structure, Dr. Morvan pleaded. Every species fighting separately just gives the Devourers more material to consume. But unity was impossible. Each species wanted to protect their own territory first. Each military leader insisted their tactics were best. Each government demanded that their allies share resources while keeping their own technology secret. Jack Morrison watched the reports from his office on Terra Nova. The same pride and selfishness that had driven humanity away was now destroying the galaxy's ability to defend itself. What does the Senate decide? Dr. Rodriguez asked. Jack looked at the voting results on his screen. The decision had been made by a single vote. We stay neutral. We will defend human space if attacked, but we will not send ships to help the aliens. Elena nodded slowly. The galaxy wanted us gone. Now they have to handle their problems without us. But both of them knew the choice was not really about revenge. Humanity had learned to be practical. They could not save people who refused to save themselves. As the first major Devourer fleet swept into inhabited galactic space, consuming entire worlds and converting them into more machines, the aliens finally understood what they had lost. When they let their pride destroy the peace talks, they had driven away the one species that might have been able to help them when they needed it most. 8 months after the first Devourer attack, the galaxy was broken. Entire star systems had vanished, consumed by the mechanical swarms that turned everything they touched into more killing machines. Refugee ships drifted through space, overcrowded, with survivors who had nowhere to go. On Nexus Prime, the once proud council chambers were half empty. Many delegates had fled when their homeworlds were destroyed. Others had died trying to defend their people. The few who remained sat in damaged chairs, their faces showing the exhaustion of a war they were losing. Chairman Voltak looked older than his 800 years. His purple bark was cracked and gray, and his voice shook when he spoke. The death toll has reached 4 trillion beings. We have lost 63 star systems completely. Another 100 systems are under attack. General Thack's report was even worse. The Krek 6 fleet is destroyed. The Veltar defense network held for 3 months before the Devourers adapted to it. The Zephyrian trade routes are completely gone. Master Kel floated in the corner, his jellyfish body a pale gray color that meant deep sorrow. Economic collapse is total. There are no trade routes left to protect. Most of our manufacturing worlds have been consumed. The few remaining delegates sat in silence. They had fought bravely, but their pride and inability to work together had cost them everything. The Devourers had won not because they were stronger, but because the galaxy had defeated itself. There's one last option, Dr. Morvan said quietly. The old scientist looked exhausted, but his eyes still held hope. The ancient defense network in the galactic core. It was built by the first civilization to face the Devourers millions of years ago. We tried to activate it, Zarian said, his silver body dim with defeat. The control systems are too damaged. It would take 1,000 ships and most of our remaining population to make it work. Then we pay that price, Voltic said firmly. If we do nothing, everyone dies anyway. The final battle for the galaxy took place in the poisoned systems around the galactic core. The ancient defense network was a ring of massive machines, each one the size of a moon. They had been built to contain the Devourers, but time had weakened them. The Alliance fleet was a desperate collection of surviving ships from dozens of species. They had finally learned to work together, but it was almost too late. General Thack commanded the military vessels, while Zarian coordinated the technical teams, trying to repair the ancient machines. The battle lasted 3 days. The Devourers threw everything they had at the defense network, wave after wave of mechanical horrors that had consumed half the galaxy. The Alliance fleet fought with desperate courage, knowing that this was their last chance. On the 3rd day, the ancient machines finally came online. Beams of pure energy swept through the galactic core, destroying Devourer fleets by the thousands. The survivors retreated into the deepest parts of the core, where they would sleep for another 1,000 years. The galaxy was saved, but at a terrible cost. The Alliance fleet was almost completely destroyed. Billions of beings had died just to activate the defense network. The galactic civilization that had existed for millions of years was gone forever. 6 months later, Jack Morrison stood in the observation deck of the UES Humanity's Hope, watching refugee ships approach the border of human space. The ships were crowded with survivors from dozens of species, all of them homeless and desperate. Admiral Sarah Mitchell stood beside him, her uniform showing the strain of months of difficult decisions. The Veltar requests permission to settle on Kepler 186F. They have 3 million refugees with nowhere else to go. Jack nodded slowly. What about the Zephyrians? Master Yin is asking for temporary shelter while they search for a new home. World. Their entire civilization is on 12 ships. The reports continued. The Krek's military had been destroyed, but 50,000 civilian survivors needed help. Dozens of smaller species had been completely wiped out, leaving only scattered refugee groups. They are not the same people who called us servants, Sarah said quietly. The war changed them. They learned to work together, but they learned it. Too late. Jack looked at the refugee ships again. Children pressed their faces against the windows, looking at the green worlds of human space with wonder. Many of them had never seen a living planet before. Dr. Rodriguez thinks we can support them, he said finally. Our terraforming technology can build new worlds faster than we can populate them. We have room. And if they try to take advantage of us again? Jack smiled, but it was not a happy expression. They will not. They know what happens when they push us away. The news conference was broadcast across what remained of galactic civilization. Jack stood in the council chambers of New Geneva, with representatives from 47 human worlds behind him. The chamber was much smaller than the grand halls of Nexus Prime, but it was warm and welcoming. The United Earth Federation has received requests for assistance from the survivors of the Devourer War, Jack announced. We are prepared to offer aid. The terms were simple but firm. Humanity would provide new worlds for refugee populations, share their terraforming technology to rebuild destroyed civilizations, and offer protection through their advanced fleets. The refugees would be treated as guests, not servants, but they would also not be given control over human territory. We learned to stand on our own when you would not accept us as equals, Jack explained to the cameras. We built something better than what you offered us. Now, we are willing to help you build something better too, if you are willing to accept us as partners instead of masters. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every surviving species agreed to the terms without argument. They had learned the hard way that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their military power, but their willingness to walk away from bad deals and their ability to create something new. Dr. Elena Rodriguez was 73 years old now, but she still worked in her laboratory every day. She stood before a group of young scientists, half of them human and half of them refugees from the war. Together, they were developing new terraforming techniques that could restore damaged worlds in months instead of years. The galaxy is healing, she told her students, but it will never be the same as it was before. The old empires are gone. The old ways of thinking are gone. We are building something new. Her assistant, a young Veltar named Zara, raised her hand. Dr. Rodriguez, will humans ever forgive us for how we treated you? Elena smiled gently. Child, we already have. Forgiveness is not about forgetting the past. It is about choosing to build a better future. Outside the laboratory windows, the forests of Terra Nova stretched to the horizon. In the distance, construction crews worked on new cities that would house refugees from across the galaxy. Human and alien children played together in parks, learning each other's languages and customs. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Pride and prejudice had cost them everything. But from the ashes of their old civilization, something new was growing. Something built on respect, cooperation, and the understanding that strength came not from controlling others, but from the courage to stand alone when necessary. Jack Morrison, now in his 80s, often walked through the memorial gardens of New Geneva. The gardens honored the trillions who had died in the Devourer War, but they also celebrated the new civilization that had grown from the tragedy. He would stop at a simple stone marker that read, "To those who died because we forgot how to listen to each other." Below it, in smaller letters, "We will do better." The galaxy had finally learned what humanity had tried to teach them at the peace talks 5 years ago. True strength came from treating others as equals, not as servants. Real power came from building something together, not from tearing others down. It had taken the near destruction of galactic civilization to learn that lesson, but they had learned it at last.